So, without further ado, I mentioned we're going to speak today about Townhall. I mentioned a few housekeeping items, again, just iterating on that. Keep your video on, keep yourself on mute, please. But today is going to be quite a chunky session, lots of new information that we are going to be sharing, lots of things that's going to be, probably make you some questions. Don't worry, we're fully here to support you. All of the questions we feel is best answered directly in person to person. So if you've got questions, feel free to chat, put them in the chat, but the best will be to reach out to your partnership lead. Set up a call with any of our team members, and we can chat you through the questions. We will be sharing a lot of the information with a follow-up email to existing customers. We also will be doing a lot of Learn articles on our Learn platform. And then, as I mentioned, we're just a phone call away, so feel free to WhatsApp us or phone us and set up a call, and we can chat through your specific use case and the questions you have after today's town hall. So without further ado, I am going to go first to what are we going to talk about today? WhatsApp conversational pricing. Now, I know a lot of you have heard about it. A lot of you have maybe read about it. But for us today, we want to share this with you as we have been given by WhatsApp. And what does it mean and how is that going to impact your use case? So what is it? The important thing to answer that question is that WhatsApp conversational pricing is based on a per conversation and not per notification. Important to note that this starts on the 1st of February, so next week already, and this is changing the entire way of how WhatsApp is looking at their pricing model. So previously, sorry, I was on mute there. Previously, you would have been charged just for your message templates, which would be a notification. This basically changes that model into a conversational pricing model, which is built around a 24-hour session. So I will explain to you when that 24 hours comes into play. So, as I mentioned, what is a conversation? There's two ways that you can look at the conversations, and they're also priced differently. The one is a user-initiated conversation, and the other is a business-initiated conversation. All conversations, as mentioned before, are measured in a 24-hour window, or what we call a session. And that is started when the business replies to a question or a response from the user. And that is then counted as the beginning of your 24-hour session. Let me show you some examples. So on your left-hand side, or my left-hand side, you'll see a typical user-initiated message. So think of it as a customer reaches out to you. They want to understand, in this specific use case, what child-friendly packages do you have available in Bali? The moment the business or organization then responds, starts the moment of the session for 24 hours, and that is then counted as a user-initiated conversation. You don't have to have opt-in. This is typically, and I think in most of your use cases that we are aware of, will be your kind of way of engaging with users, where the user come to you first and then you respond. And this is then priced as a user-initiated conversation. On the right-hand side is a business conversation, initiated conversation. So typically, think of it previously where you would have used a message template to initiate the conversation, send a reminder. Most often you would have opt-in already from your user to send them that message, and that will then be seen as a business-initiated conversation. And the pricing of that is then provided. So a little bit more closer to home, to give you an example, user-initiated conversation. This is a use case that I think many of you will be familiar with. So a parent wants some more information about the admission process for a school, and they reach out to an organization. The organization then responds back with a conversation, say, here's the information requested. This conversation is then seen as a user-initiated conversation and has a specific rate to that. That is a WhatsApp determined rate that is then for that conversation. Then in terms of business, this is, as I mentioned, so in this case, the WHO have previously opted users in to receive these messages from them, and users have requested to receive this. So this is where they're sending out a health checkup message to the user, and this is then seen as a business-initiated conversation. You can send as many messages within that 24-hour conversation window, and you are charged for the entire conversation, not per message. Now, I'm sure some of you have questions about this. Tanya is going to be taking us some of the frequently asked questions. We are compiling a document, and we will upload that onto our Learn articles of ongoing FAQs. So if you've got a question that we haven't answered today, please reach out to us. We really value your input, and we will try our best to answer it, but we will also share it with the rest of the community so we all can learn at the same time. Tanya, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and hello, everyone. As Lisa mentioned, we enjoy chatting to our clients, and in some of our conversations, there have been a couple of interesting questions. So we thought we might as well use this time to share some of those with you, and we hope it provides more insight. One of the frequently asked questions has been around freeform messaging. Now, can I send a freeform message? And yes, you can send a freeform message within 24 hours of the last user message within a conversation. However, if it's been more than 24 hours since the last message, a business must send what we call a message template. Now, message templates have an approval process by WhatsApp, and that process remains unchanged. It's also worth noting that a delivery of a message template will also open a new conversation with your users. Next slide, please. Also being frequently asked is, how are conversations charged? Now, conversations within the WhatsApp Business API are charged based on the end user's phone number. And those rates are, again, vary based on the market. So what that means is essentially based on where your user is, the country or region, those conversation rates might apply. Next slide, please. And the last question, which has also been asked by some of our clients, is, are all conversations paid? Now, we're happy that the first 1,000 conversations per month for each WhatsApp business account are free. In addition to that, conversations will not be charged when a user messages a business using a call to action button on ads that click to WhatsApp or a Facebook page call to action. Now I'll hand over to Simon, who will take us through the next step.
Yes. Hey, everyone. This is Simon. I'm one of the co-founders of Turn. I haven't spoken on one of these town halls in a while, so I'm happy to be back and kicking off 2022 with you all. So as part of these changes that WhatsApp is pushing through on with regards to how conversations are priced, we thought it was a good idea to kind of go back a little bit, a few years, for how did we start? How is Turn supporting the ecosystem, and what is our origin story in this? And our origin really is in building systems that allow for impact at scale. And this is how we want to support you. And I just wanted to tell a little bit about the story about where Turn has its origins, and that's actually in maternal health in our Mom Connect program in South Africa. Originally, up until I think it was 2016, Mom Connect was exclusively SMS and USSD based. And it was incredibly successful. It was the world's first fully nationally integrated maternal health platform and registry. And on every indicator, it was incredibly successful, except for one, and that was the cost of messages. And the more successful Mom Connect became, the bigger liability this became, and these kinds of programs fall into this weird trap that we started recognizing in the impact space, is where where a solution that really works, that has impact, that as it scales up, it runs the risk of collapsing under the weight of its own success, simply because the cost of inventory of messaging is just way too high. And that's how we started with Turn, to see, can we build a system, can we build a platform that allows organizations to scale and to really focus on impact at scale, but have a predictable cost on what those, that as the program scales, that you would have a predictable cost, and that you would not run headfirst into this problem where the program itself collapses under the weight of its own success. And so if we go to the next slide, we're looking at the types of costs at the moment in just the ecosystem that Turn is essentially part of in the WhatsApp business messaging space. You have the WhatsApp conversation costs, which Kanya just took us through, and those are, like Kanya explained, those are based on user-initiated and business-initiated conversations. And those costs are set by WhatsApp. Then many BSPs will put in a conversation cost, which is essentially a markup on top of the costs that WhatsApp will charge for you. And these costs vary per business service provider, and everyone is finding their business model that works for their specific use case in this space. And then thirdly, the other cost center that you have is simply the product costs. So these are the costs of running an application like Turn or any of these other applications that are out there. So it's often a monthly or an annual cost for software as a service that, you know, for the product that meets the features that you need. So as we're looking at how do we best support you, how do we allow you to have impact at scale, these are also the variables that we're working with. The costs that are simply set by WhatsApp, those are per conversation, as Kanya explained. The costs that the BSP counts on top of that. So per conversation that WhatsApp, some BSPs, for example, put a surcharge on there of, I don't know, X% or cent, whatever. And then there's the product costs itself. So this is the space that we are working in. And now what we are very, very happy to be able to share with you, and Lisa, please go to the next slide, is that all Turn.io nonprofit customers will be gifted 100,000 free conversations per month to help you scale your impact in 2022. And this waiver will start on the 1st of February until January 2023. And it does require pre-approval for your organization from Meta. Now, why we are so proud of this is that this is the result of 6 months, if not longer, worth of work. And it's the direct result of all of you being involved in this Chat for Impact community, showing the success, showing the impact that your services have, putting those on WhatsApp, Facebook, Meta's radars and saying, hey, these are great use cases of having positive social impact using the platforms that are being built. And over the last months, as WhatsApp has started working through these use cases, and often with many of you in the boot camps, the accelerators, the summits that we've gone, they've really understood that this is a different vertical. The social impact vertical is different from the purely commercial ones, and different considerations apply for this space. And so as Turn, we are a social impact business service provider. And over the last few months, we have worked very hard with WhatsApp to try and find a model that works well for social impact organizations. And so as a direct result of this work, every organization, every nonprofit customer on Turn.io will get 100,000 free conversations every single month. So the counter restarts every month to help you scale your impact in 2022. And so why we started with the story of Mom Connect is that for Mom Connect, this would have been a huge difference for being able to run the program at scale, knowing that you have predictable costs every month and you've got a essentially completely free messaging inventory up to 100,000 conversations every single month. So we're very proud of this. We're very excited to be able to start the year 2022 with you with this announcement. So Pippa, that's over to you.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, so it is 100,000 conversations per month. If you're working with other BSPs, that would be 1,000 conversations per month. So we're very, very excited to be able to give you guys that offer, being a social impact focused BSP. We've also been simplifying our own product fees. So as you know, over the last while, we've had multiple different pricing options, but we kind of sat down at the end of last year and the beginning of this year and thought, okay, how can we make our pricing simpler, easier to predict? We know a lot of you are working in raising grant funding on a yearly cycle, and so having a predictable monthly cost makes it a lot easier to anticipate your spend over the year. And so we wanted to make sure we're changing our pricing on our pro plan to a flat fee. We used to have a tiering based on monthly active users, which meant that as you got more monthly active users, you paid higher prices. We also didn't want that limitation anymore. So we wanted to make sure that you don't have to worry about how many users you're engaging with. You pay one flat fee throughout the year, so that you don't have to worry about scaling. We also, as you said, want to make sure that we set up the infrastructure for your numbers that allowed you to have high engagement. We want you all to use those 100,000 conversations that you're getting for free from WhatsApp every single month. So we want to make sure that we had one price point that allows us to optimize your numbers for scale. So you don't have to worry about any of the automatic scaling issues that you might have when you're going to high numbers. And so that was the frame within which we looked at our new pricing, which comes into effect for all new clients on the 1st of February. All existing clients that are already have Turn license fees, the new pricing updates will come into effect in 3 months' time on the 1st of May. We understand that, you know, pricing changes, there may need to be plans that are made. So we're making sure that you guys have 3 months to plan around that. Additionally, I want to just note that if you have an existing long-term contract with Turn, so you've signed a 6 or 12-month contract with us, or you've joined Turn as part of a bootcamp offer, those offers and deals and contracts will remain honored until the end of 2022. So if you're one of those clients, these any pricing updates will only come into effect for you in 2023, which is a long time off, but better you know about any pricing changes as soon as possible. So we basically optimize these pricing so that you can have impact at scale. So if we go to the next slide, let me explain to you what our new simple pricing is. So we have replaced the basic plan, which is $99, with a free Sandbox account. What we realized was a lot of you who were paying us $99 actually are just still prototyping. You're still testing things out. You haven't started your program yet. You're talking to a few users, but you're figuring out what you want to do. In that case, we don't want you to pay us $99. We rather give you a free line that you can test something with in the Sandbox. That's a shared line. And when you're ready, come to us for a full license. And so that was something that we thought was important for this year. Secondly, we've standardized, as I said, our pro fees to one standard fees. So you pay $3.99 if you're paying annually per month. And if you pay every month and don't want an annual subscription, that's $4.99. This gets you, as I just said, for a flat fee, unlimited users. We set up your infrastructure so that you can easily handle up to 100,000 conversations per month, so you can make use of that great free inventory. And you still get, you know, the support you have and unlimited training. And obviously for our bigger enterprise clients who are either have their own private clouds, or we are going to be offering a new option where Turn will host a private cloud type setup for you. If you're interested in those options, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Next slide. So I know this is quite confusing because there are all these different price points. So Simon's going to take us through what does that mean in different countries.
Yeah, so I'll be taking you through two separate countries and then handing over to Pippa again. The first one we're looking at in South Africa, and way in the beginning of the call when Kanya explained that the rates are set by WhatsApp by looking at the phone number of the end user. And so if you are running programs in, say, South Africa, these are roughly what the costs would be. So what does 100,000 conversations practically mean for you in terms of costs and savings? So if you model this as saying 100,000 conversations, if you model that at approximately 10 conversations per user per month, you're looking at 10,000 users every month. Now, going back again to the slide where we were looking at the different cost centers, for many business service providers, and this is where Turn was part of as well originally, the cost of a per conversation is variable because you don't know how many conversations you're going to have. And then every single conversation, essentially the business service provider could add a markup on there. Then secondly, there's a cost of using their product. And so there are some costs that we cannot speak to because it obviously depends on who the business service provider is in this setup other than Turn. But we do know that if we use this calculation for South Africa for 100,000 conversations, according to the WhatsApp rate card, the cost per user generated conversation is $0.0168 US. So we know that the cost of those 100,000 conversations translates to $1,663 dollars per month in WhatsApp conversations costs. And then on top of that, there's variable costs depending on what the BSP and how their business model works. Now, if we take that and we look back at the new pricing plan that Pippa just discussed, the Turn.io cost would actually be $399 a month if you're on the annual plan. But the value of that, given the 100,000 conversations, is actually $1,663. Now, Turn does not add any markup on top of those conversations. That's it. Those are the costs for you. So that's if modeled on South Africa. Now, if we go to the next slide, we'll look at the costs for Brazil. So again, for Brazil, we're using the same model, 100,000 conversations, averaging approximately 10 conversations per user a month. We're looking at 10,000 users in Brazil. The rate card for user-initiated conversations in Brazil is $0.03. And so you'll see how those costs are variable depending on per region. For South Africa, the cost was $1,663. But if you're looking at Brazil, the cost is $2,970 a month. And that on top of that would be the additional business service provider cost and the product cost. For Turn, the cost again would be $399 a month if paying annually. The value you would get out of that in Brazil with the 100,000 allocation is $2,970 US. So it really is worthwhile to look at this pricing model and model it against how are you going to scale? What are you expecting in terms of how many conversations will you be having? Put that alongside the WhatsApp rate card and see, does that make sense for your specific use case? So this was South Africa and Brazil. You'll see that for Brazil, simply because the cost of a conversation in Brazil is almost double the South African one. You'll see the savings increase there, where Turn gives you a flat fee per month, essentially. Pippa, over to you.
Yeah, India, luckily for India, the WhatsApp conversation costs are actually some of the cheapest rates. So when you're doing this calculation in India, 100,000 conversations, you're ending up with about just under $400 per month that you'd be paying for those conversations in India. So quite a big, as you see, price differential between different countries. And as Kanya said to us and Lisa, this is country of your user's phone number. So you, those of you who are chatting to people across a couple of different countries, you'll be dealing with a couple of different potentially price points for those same conversations in each of the different countries. The savings will be as such. And so we just wanted to hopefully give you an understanding of how these things fit together. And hopefully that makes a lot more sense for you. Please, if you have any questions about any of this pricing, we would love to chat to you and set up a call, as Lisa said. You know, these things are unfortunately quite complex. And so we'd love to chat you through your options. We, as we mentioned, are going to be writing up learn articles, as well as sending you all an email that specifies all of these details. Additionally, just want to say that if any of you within the next 3 months before these changes come into play for existing clients, if there is any fundraising activities that you need our support on, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're more than happy to support you in whatever way we can with that. And just wanting to end off, you know, these pricing updates really for us as a Turn team will allow us to, one, build better tooling for allowing you to do much more complex impact services. We're wanting this year to invest in more security and privacy first features, as we know that's all important to you guys and the use cases you're using. We're also wanting to provide better insights into the impact of your service. So there's going to be a lot of work going on our side around that. Last but not least, we want to be able to give you more personalized support. As Lisa said in the beginning, we love to see all your faces and to chat to you. And so that's one of the key things that this will enable for us personally. And lastly, you know, our community is really important. We want to continue to share resources and best practices in the Chat for Impact community, as well as continue to create playbooks that allow you to improve the quality of your service. And so those are all things that this is going to make possible in 2022. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Nilka for some product updates.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nilka. I'm based in Cape Town in South Africa. I've realized if I look at the list of names that there's definitely a bunch of you who I haven't personally met. So it's just, yeah, I'm excited about our new but old Townhall format so that we can over time get to know more names and faces. Today, it's my privilege to chat a little bit about the product. And maybe in the coming months, we can focus more on all our plans. Today is just an update on the most recent things you will find in the product. So the first one on my next slide, last year towards the end, we chat a lot about buttons. I still get very excited every time I send myself a message with a button and I get a button just to press a button as a user on WhatsApp. So if you're not in the know, I just want to reiterate that buttons is now a thing on WhatsApp. As an organization, you can set up messages with up to 3 buttons, and the user experience, it really simplifies the user experience. So towards the end of 2021, we made button messages available to be used in automation. And then early in January, we made it available to be used in threads. And then we continue to add small things like you can now add emojis to buttons. So use that wisely, especially in cases maybe there's a literacy thing or there's just like the thing of emoji, just communicate what you're trying to get the user to maybe choose between. So use that wisely to improve the user experience. And then we've also made it possible to customize the error message when a user might be interacting incorrectly with a button. The big thing around buttons that I want to put the challenge out there for you guys is to actually start using them. Like go and replace certain maybe multiple choice questions in your threads. Go and look at, reiterate or revisit your registration or your welcome. You will see that Manish have done that on our own support line. So there's certain things where you can now just make a selection. As a user, it adds tremendous value. I don't have to type. I don't have to make sure that I respond with the correct, whatever is required of me. So use that, and please feel free to share your stories. And if you see, if that changes interaction patterns on your services, we'd like to know. And I'm sure the rest of the community would love to hear if there's key learnings coming from this. So that's buttons. And then the second update is more of a FYI. So we have depreciated templates in Sandbox accounts. I'm going to give a little bit of a background. When templates initially was launched by WhatsApp, it was only text-based. So it was, I don't want to say boring, but it was just text, and you had a little placeholder that you could use to personalize it, like with a name or maybe a specific answer. And then in last year, it became a lot more exciting, where WhatsApp is allowing you now to use an image with it, even a video. So it just gives you much more to initiate conversation with. And then recently also buttons. But what that has meant is that we can no longer have a mock-up experience of templates in the Sandbox account. So you might not have known it, but the Sandbox templates were never really submitted to WhatsApp. It was purely a way, while we were doing training, that you could kind of get the idea of a template, specifically because I think now most of you have your head around templates, but this whole thing at the beginning of this 24-hour period. So there's a lot of stuff that, that we spend a lot of time training on, that's now day-to-day usage for you guys on Turn. But so the long and the short is we end up removing templates from Sandboxes altogether, purely because we can't replicate the rich experience, and we don't want to give you a false impression of what templates look like. It should really not have an impact on you guys, but if there's for somehow that you need, reach out to us, and you can chat us through if you run into any issues, but take this more as a FYI. And then the last one from me is a big shout out to the WHO team. If you haven't seen it, they've uploaded and published a brand new playbook around privacy policy. They really did a great job at writing the context behind it and where it comes from and how you can use it. I know there's a lot of you who think about privacy, but sometimes you're just not sure how to think about it and how do you implement it. Please have a look. If you're not sure where to find it, head over to the playbook section. There's a little black beta next to it in the product. And then there's a nice black button for community playbooks. Open it, read through the context, and most importantly, download it to your account and start using it. Play with it, test it, customize it for yourself. We're excited. It's also, we're getting going with playbooks. So as you guys share it, we're still in a place where we can actually give you guys a shout out on Townhall on really important work that you're doing. You guys will also see, Lisa, you can go to the Connect community, but I want to point out, we've got the Chat for Impact forum. I think towards the end of last year, we kicked it off. It's much more, I don't want to say informal, but it's more interactive maybe than a LinkedIn group. I think on LinkedIn, it's very professional and we all have great jobs. The forum is a place to ask your questions, answer one another. Don't feel bad to look silly. Don't feel bad to ask easy questions. And don't wait for us to answer. Please answer one another. You will see the moment we've published any product updates on Learn, we'll share it in the forum. You're welcome to respond there. There's a place for you to do feature requests. But go and have a look. There's a request put out in the general discussion, a call to collaboration on gender-based violence work. So similar to these things with the WHO can then turn stuff into playbooks that other organizations can reuse. Know that UNICEF and ICI that may put out the call to action there, they're looking at how do we bring these things into the broader community? How do we actually have a bigger effort to save chatbots? I mean, these chat services are also in its infancy, and we want to think about protecting the vulnerable communities and really building in safeguards into these services. So looking forward to the forum, going from strength to strength in this year. And then, we still have product trainings going on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You're welcome to join one, more than one. You're welcome to come back. Welcome to come for a refresher. And then lastly, if you need to chat to the team directly, we still have our WhatsApp support line. with specific queries. But really want to say, guys, use the forum in this year. You might get more and better ideas from one another than we as a team can ever give to you. Yeah, that's it from me. No, I haven't checked if there's just Mani sharing the forum with you guys, and Pippa answering one or two other questions. Yeah, so from our side, I don't know, Lisa, you can send us home.
Yes, thank you so much. We're actually a few minutes early, which I'm sure everyone is super happy for that time to quickly make a cup of tea or coffee. As mentioned, and it's a lot of information to digest in our time together. We will follow up with emails to existing customers. We also will be sharing the articles and Learn. And at any time, reach out to the partnership team. We're super happy to set up a call with you. We can discuss the current plan you're on. We can work together on making this transition for you as smooth as possible. We just want to continue to thank you for your support, and we look forward to our next town hall together in February. So keep an eye out for that time invitation. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a lovely day.